Welcome to Total Network Operations, the project with a podcast dedicated to hardworking network operators like you who deliver all the packets. Here on TNOps, we want to shine a bright light on great ideas in NetOps so you can make informed decisions for your network and your team. I'm Scott Robon. One of the issues that we talk about on TNOps is the need to have a holistic view of network operations, having a consistent systems view for networking and security and more, as well as tight collaboration and alignment with team members in non-technical business and finance functions. We also need to be thinking about what our NetOps teams will look like in the next 5 to 10 years. To talk about all these issues and more, we have a sponsored episode today with Carla Guzzetti, Senior Vice President for Product Experience and Innovation at Extreme Networks. Carla, it's great to have you on TNOps today. Tell us about yourself and your responsibilities at Extreme.
Thanks so much, Scott. I'm really excited to be here. It's always a wonderful opportunity to talk about NetOps and what we're doing at Extreme to really impact that. So thank you so much for the opportunity. So what do I do at Extreme? I do a little bit of everything. You know, my background is actually more in advertising and in experience. So when I came to Extreme, I wanted to apply my experience in the B2C world to the B2B world. And in that, I oversee the development and the design of our product experience and thinking about how we can make it easier for users to access and manage and really get great analytics from their network. And so here at Extreme, I oversee product design, oversee our UI engineering, user research, content, and also our product and our newest product, Extreme Platform One.
That's all great. Before we dive into the new stuff coming, can you just give us a brief history of Extreme Networks? Many listeners are familiar with Extreme, but just to level set for everybody, tell us about how you got to where you are and what markets you primarily serve today.
Yeah. So Extreme Networks has an incredible heritage within the networking industry. You know, the company has been together for over 26 years. I think we're on our 28th year now. And it has an amazing tradition, which in Silicon Valley, to be going still after 28 years is
for sure
an achievement in and of itself. And what is really in the culture here at Extreme is constant innovation. And I think that I've been with the company now almost 6 years. And in that time frame, I've seen us go through about 6 acquisitions. And that has been incredible because we have built an amazing portfolio. But now what we're doing is we're thinking about how do we take all of those capabilities and unite them so that our customers and our users can actually access the power of our portfolio and the breadth of it. And what I really love about Extreme is that we're constantly thinking of how are we going to innovate. You know, we are third largest in this industry. So we are large enough to be very impactful and change the trajectory of the industry, but we are small enough to be agile and really respond to what's happening in the market. Where do we think we're going next? And that's really, you know, a little bit of a brief overview of Extreme's history.
No, thank you for that. And, you know, as people who've been bouncing around Silicon Valley for a long time, right, we see companies acquire products from an engineering and operations side. You know, there are those of us who are sensitive to, well, this is a natively developed product and it has this CLI. This is an acquired product and it has a different CLI. You know, do I try and make it look exactly the same as the existing stuff? Do I let them be different? It sounds like Platform One might help with that and go beyond it. Why don't you talk a little bit about Platform One? Give us an overview. What are your goals with it, and what makes this the right time to launch it?
So I think, you know, you're spot on about that. There are so many things when you're acquiring a new product. There's a hesitancy of you don't necessarily want to change it because the install base and the existing customer base is very used to how things operate there. And we have been very conscious of that when we think about any sort of acquisition. We want to take our time to really understand what are the main use cases and capabilities within that product that deeply matter to that customer base, and how are we going to apply it to be able to continue to grow our customer base. With Extreme Platform One, you know, as I said, we've been on this very big journey of acquiring multiple capabilities, multiple products and companies. And now with Extreme Platform One, we think it now is exactly the time in the industry and in the market for us to unite it, because we hear the demand from CIOs and people within our industry and our customers saying, it's all getting too complex. The networking industry has really had a proliferation of all sorts of different applications, particularly with the introduction of cloud. You have an application for every small use case, and it's getting very, very difficult for our customers to be able to really combine all of that. And the industry is putting that pain on the customer and saying, you have to figure out how to stitch all of these different applications and projects together. And that becomes a problem that you, customer, you have to solve. We as a business really felt that it was time for us to resolve that and take the accountability as a company and resolve that issue for our customers. So what we have done with Extreme Platform One is taken a look at our set of applications, looked at what are the key use cases and capabilities of those applications that we know that our customers and users really rely on, they love, they depend on it, and how do we combine that in a very seamless an easy way for them to access so that it isn't painful for them to have to learn a new workflow that once they're used to their old one. So there's been a lot of research and thought about this, but it is in direct response to market demand.
So let's dive in on that a little deeper. You use the term workflow, and many folks don't have that in their vocabulary. It's like, I figured out how to configure and troubleshoot this certain thing, and it's just how I do it. There isn't a lot of explicit thought on workflow. How does that tie into your thinking around Platform One?
Scott, and that makes me sad when you say that. it makes me sad for customers and users when, I hear a story where our customer has had to create the workflow themselves because, working in the B2C space and coming more from an industry where we wanted to make it easy for users to understand and access technology, it really should be our responsibility so that what our users are doing are spending more time thinking about how does the network improve their business and also the experience to their customers, whether that's an employee or a doctor or a patient, whomever they're serving. And we want to be able to make it so that our users are spending their time focusing on more complex issues, right? And so when I talk about workflow, the reason that we think about it is that we take the jobs to be done approach. So we think about, Scott, if you are a NetOps, we think about what are the jobs that Scott is trying to do today, and how can we make it so that our product helps him be more successful in his day to day. We think about the reasons why you would come into our product and what are your expectations, and then we think about what are those jobs that you are trying to accomplish by using our product, and we think about every single step that you have to go through, whether that step is within our product and within our control at Extreme or outside our product and outside of our control. So even thinking through what are the other applications you might potentially have to access, who are the other team members that you would potentially have to speak to, and that's what we call a journey, a user journey. And so we've taken every single one of those steps, and then we've developed our workflows off of those steps, thinking about how can we take the pain out of Scott's workflow so that you are more successful at work.
Yeah, that's uncommon, I think, in the industry. Many of the tools that we use in running the network are all about, here are the Legos. You can take the Legos. Sorry, this is not a sponsored episode by Lego.
But Lego.
Or Lincoln Logs or Erector sets, whatever you prefer. But you get to put it together and do what you want. And, that's okay for a certain number of scenarios. But I think I don't want to make you sad. Here's an opportunity for you to drive a conversation and be one of the entities driving this concept. And it's becoming more and more important, right? The workforce is changing. I think you've seen some things on that front.
Absolutely. When we started thinking about how can we improve experience and how can we unite all of these different technologies, all of these various use cases so that we can unite them for our customer, one of the challenges that was issued to me by our chief product and technology officer is he said, Carla, I want you to build a front end and an experience that is going to future proof us for the next 5 to 10 years. And so I took that challenge very seriously. And being the person that I am, I love a bit of data, right? I love to think about how are we going to anchor this? And when I started to think about what our product needs to do in the next 5 to 10 years, yes, there's an element of technology, but then also there's the concept of who is going to be using our product in the next 5 to 10 years and what are their expectations. And, of course, there's Gen Z. That's the easiest place to start,
Sure.
because they're the newest generation to enter the workforce. But if I really think about it, Gen Alpha, the generation after them, they are going to be 18 by 2028, which means that they're going to be using our product, and also they'll be influencing buying decisions. Users of the product directly influence buying decisions. And particularly when it comes to the complexity of networking and security, a lot of decision makers and buyers rely heavily on what the user experience is and how they feel like that fits into their day-to-day. And so I wanted us to take a look at not only how we can improve our existing user experience for the existing generation, but then also build towards what the expectation is going to be with Generation Alpha. This is a generation that really has an expectation of tech companies that the tech company is going to do the work for them, so that what they're going to get out of the technology is analytics. It's going to be able to accomplish specific jobs to be done, and for it to be done simply. They just simply do not have the patience to stitch a workflow together. They're going to go with the products and with the companies that are going to think about them first. That's an expectation already of Gen Z, and in Gen Alpha, it's going to increase.
If I apply that to something that I've seen over the course of my tech career, there's an analogy here to, well, look, if I have to read a user guide, the app is not designed well. Don't make me go read any documentation to use it. So am I in the right neighborhood here? And it sounds like it's 10x that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly it. I mean, I think that given the complexity of the industry of networking and security, there's always going to be an element, there's going to be a learning curve, right? We can't make it as simple as, buying a new iPhone or something like that, although maybe we could. But,
right.
There is always going to be a level of expectation that there will be some certification, some training required. However, it should be very intuitive. And we are even thinking about, how do we revolutionize training and certifications? Maybe your certification is actually based on the number of workflows and things you accomplish within the product. It's not necessarily having to go to a separate training, or maybe it's an IA-based training that's integrated into your day-to-day. So you are sort of certifying yourself by the more that you actually use the product, rather than us forcing you to sit into a classroom or take a whole bunch of, classes on YouTube or something like that.
So that's a very interesting thread to pull on. I won't go there today just because we have a lot of good stuff to talk about. But one of the hats I wear is looking at what does next generation network engineering look like from a skills I need to know and certification, especially in network automation. So I may come back to you with some ideas and questions on that.
That could be our next podcast.
It sounds great. Yes, writing that down. So let's make this a little more concrete. You've talked about, the existence of the platform, being able to encompass the different apps that you have, arranging them in workflows, and I'm not a marketer, so please correct me if I'm not using the term correctly, but I hear at least 3 different personas that you've called out, like the NetOps person, the SecOps person, and maybe someone in the business or finance operations role.
Yeah.
Can we talk about a couple scenarios or workflows that kind of tie some of those things together?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought this up, because something that has also bothered me since I've entered into the networking industry is I thought about how networking data and what the network provides and the power of NetOps is really overlooked and overshadowed. And that is by and large because people who are non-technical, like your procurement manager or your chief operating officer, or your chief marketing officer, they don't have an experience that allows them to understand what how that data translates into an insight for them. So one of the things that we wanted to do while we were building Extreme Platform One is to think about not only our NetOps persona or our SecOps persona and our technical users, but our non-technical users as well, and how our experience impacts them. And so what we've done with Extreme Platform One is we've created a composable experience. So based on the role that we have identified is accessing the platform and the relevant data to them, we create an experience where they have access to data, AI, and insights based on what we know is going to be important to them. So for example, if I am the procurement manager and you are our NetOps, when you can provide, as the network admin, you can provide me access and I will be able to see a consolidated view of all of our subscriptions and contracts. I'll be able to understand exactly, what pieces of hardware and what sites and what are the attached subscriptions for that. I can build dashboards that will help me with reporting. This is a major pain point that has been totally overlooked by the industry because it is really difficult for buyers and procurement managers to understand how are the subscriptions being used, how are their contracts being used, what's the consumption, what's the upcoming billing. And it really creates a barrier between, IT and also the other portions of the business that have to support them. And that's one more way that we can unify that experience and make it easier for customers to buy from us, to work with us, and also for them to be able to create collaboration even within their own business.
So what would you say to, the NetOps or SecOps person that's nervous about, if I expose this information to the financial operations team, I don't want them going in and changing anything. I'm a little nervous about this. How would you counsel somebody with those concerns?
Well, number one, the network admin is in charge of what your other users can or cannot see and what they can or cannot change. So number one, power is yours. You can.
Roger.
Number two.
Good answer. Good
Yeah.
Number one. Yes.
Yes. We definitely had a lot of conversations about that, the importance of that. Nobody mess with the network. But I think the most important thing is whether you choose to expose that to another part of your team or another part of your business. More importantly, even if you choose not to, you can have those analytics as well. So it can be as simple as the NetOps persona can create a dashboard or insights or a report from Extreme Platform One, download it and share it with their financial services team or their procurement team. If you are uncomfortable with that level of trust, the other thing is we're putting the power with the NetOps as well, with the NetOps persona as well. And I think that, I know that when we were interviewing our customers, this is a huge pain point. This is something where they can hire people for up to a month out of every year just to manage all of their licensing and their contracts and trying to explain that to their financial team or their procurement team and trying to keep that really timely so that they don't have expired subscriptions or they don't have firmware that's out of date, or they can have some sort of predictive around what is coming next in their next AOP, or their next budgeting cycle. What is it that they are going to have to put in there, forecast costs. This is a huge, huge pain point, which takes time away from actually managing the network and making sure that everything is staying secure. And if we as a business can find a way to make that easier when you're buying from Extreme, then we'd love to do that.
This is something that, I asked my pointed question intentionally. From my experience, I wish I had spent more time and effort understanding people on the business side of the house. I think encouraging those relationships and that transparency is a good thing and a healthy thing, because we are doing this, because it's a business, right? Not just because we want to nerd out on networking technology. And you might want to do that, but that's not the end goal.
It's not the end goal. Well, and there's one thing I learned early in my career. There are two teams you always want to be really close with. One is IT.
Yep.
And the second one is your financial team. Like those are the two teams that keep the entire business ticking over. And more importantly, being able to develop that relationship so that NetOps has more time to geek out, right? Like less time getting in frustrated conversations with your procurement team and your financial team, and more time geeking out on the fun stuff.
Right. I think anything that helps create and maybe even forces those communications within an organization is a good thing. So,
Yeah.
hurrah.
Yay. Yay for
Uh,
teamwork.
exactly. So, Carla, you haven't used the term source of truth, but that is a commonly adopted discussion in network automation realms today, but even more. Would you consider Platform One to contain or provide a source of truth, or how do you think about that concept with Platform One?
Yeah, so Platform One should be for our customers and users that are running with Extreme. It is the source of truth for them, right? So it is where you'll be able to do all of your network automation, all of your configuration, your maintenance, your monitoring, troubleshooting. It's all there in one spot. More importantly, and we haven't really touched on this, Scott, just yet, is also the ability to automate with AI. So the exciting thing about Extreme Platform One, and I can't believe that we haven't gotten to it. We've had all this wonderful conversation. I haven't brought this up yet, but
Don't worry, we're getting there, but this is perfect. Yep.
the core, we have built Extreme Platform One with AI at the core. And what that means is AI is available to the user throughout their entire experience. It's not just jammed into one area, and it's not just one specific use case. So yes, AI operations, AI ops is a major, major opportunity with AI, particularly around automation and monitoring and troubleshooting the network and predictive analytics and getting out in front of problems. Those are the baseline use cases, which I'd say at this point in time is pretty standard within the industry as an expectation from AI, but we want to take it beyond that. We wanted to think about how can we have AI really be a teammate and be a collaborator with you. And so we think a lot about how do we take this data, the source of truth, and then infuse it with AI so that we can create more interesting and compelling automation than what the industry has seen.
So that is an interesting concept that's coming up in multiple verticals and markets. Having an AI agent that's a member of my team,
Yep.
and some people like I give goosebumps when I say that. It's a little creepy, right?
It is a little scary sometimes, yeah.
But it's where the puck is going, right? So it doesn't matter whether Scott thinks it's creepy or not. This is a real thing. What does that look like within Platform One? Do I need to be an AI expert, and do I need to get my prompts just right? Talk about that a little bit.
So one of the things, the mantra that we believe and that we say to ourselves as we've been building Extreme Platform One is that AI is not going to take our user or customer's job, but anybody who is not using AI, that person will take our user and customer's job. So we want to help educate and arm our users and customers with AI so that they stay out in front of everybody else, right? And I think that one of the things that I've spent a lot of time with our design team thinking about AI as the UX of AI. I think that I've been spending a lot of time with brilliant people who are architecting and building our artificial intelligence and our AI core. And they are brilliant, wonderful people, but they could sit there and prompt AI all day. And I find that exhausting, like true prompt exhaustion. That's a thing. And I think that what we've done when we think about the experience for AI, we've thought about what's the trust curve, because you have to think about our relationship with AI. We want to put it into a human framework. We want to think about it, how our customers and users work with AI. We wanted to put it within the context of how would they work with another teammate? And so there's the concept of a conversational conversation or a conversational interaction with AI. And I tend to think of that more as an advisor. It would be as if, I messaged you, Scott, and I said, hey, I'm looking for a really great podcast where I can learn about, I don't know, SD-WAN or something. And you write back to me and you say, oh, well, these are top podcasts besides my own that you should be listening to. Right.
Right.
And, But that's a piece of advice, which I can choose to take or not take. It doesn't necessarily impact what I currently work on. And the human in the loop experience there is entirely on my own. The next level of that would be if I wanted to collaborate with AI. And I think about how if I'm building something with a teammate, and so I have the teammate do a portion of the work, and then I'm also doing a portion of the work, and we get on a phone call together. And, I might say to you, Scott, hey, I think we should move this picture over there and let's change that text there. But I'm advising and we're collaborating and building something together. That's our collaborative state or our design state of AI. So we've created an AI canvas where it's a conversation with AI, but our AI is actually building something as you're guiding it. And then within the canvas, you can actually then change yourself what the AI has created, and you can manipulate those pieces of data yourself. And you're building something, you're collaborating something, and creating something with AI. And that is the next level of trust, because I'm trusting that the AI is going to understand what I'm looking for and that it's going to be able to create something interesting. But the human in the loop experience is very much there, and I choose when it's published. Now, the highest level of trust is really when AI becomes a teammate, like you said. And think about that experience. When we look at AI agents, our philosophy is there are different levels of trust in what job you're going to give to an AI agent. Now, you might have an AI agent that's a bit like an intern, right? I'm going to go and as you would handle an intern, you might give them low work that, you trust them, but if they mess it up, it's not going to be too bad, right? So that might be dashboarding or reporting. And then there's work that would be more of that, like a manager level or at, a very high ranking individual contributor. And then there's work that would be at, at a VP or an SVP level. We think about that and how we approach our agents, and we put it in that kind of paradigm. What is the level of trust? And what is it that our user is going to need to give to that agent for them to feel confident that the agent is going to be able to take out or be able to execute against what they're looking for?
So, okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. Maybe walk me through as concrete a scenario as we can get without having an SME on the podcast here. For example, what if I'm going to upgrade the software on a device, and I want to check the state of its connections before the upgrade, then actually do the upgrade and compare the state of connections after the upgrade. How would I interact with one of the Platform One agents to work that out and maybe capture it so it's repeatable?
Absolutely. So I think one of the main issues that we know that our customers face is mean time to innocence, right? Trying to prove it's not the network's fault, it's actually the client's fault. So in that scenario, you could actually have, and we will have, an AI agent that will monitor client experience proactively. So it can proactively, we are partnering with Intel actually, so we can get any customer that has a large number of clients that have an Intel chipset, we will be able to understand what are the issues coming from those clients. We combine that with the network data, and we can actively predict if there is going to be an issue with client experience, and we can monitor how things are going with the experience, and we can proactively recommend software upgrades and get out in front of the issue. So that's one example. Or we also will have agents that can do remediation. So let's say you do run into an issue, you want to deploy an agent, find out what the issue is, and then do a compare and contrast. You can have the agent do that and then also create a report for you of what was the experience before and what is it now. So it really depends, and we will be looking at building agents that are both proactive and also reactive, and then of course being able to provide all sorts of reporting so that our customers and users can report out, this is how we managed to improve it, or this is what the issue was. So that way the agent is doing all of that rather than all of the user having to do that themselves.
No, I appreciate that. And before we end, I'll give you an opportunity to point people to where you want them to go to see more visual and interactive, ways to see this. We can only do so much just talking, which
True.
is great. But the next step would be, okay, where can I go see this and try it myself? So I do want to go back to one thing before we get too far away from it. The topic that everybody loves to talk about, licensing. Um, you made a really great comment to me in a previous conversation about really wanting to improve the licensing experience. I won't put those words back in your mouth, but tell me more about what you're trying to do with Platform One on that front.
Well, we already have the easiest licensing in the industry, but then I wanted to take it to another level of how can we build the easiest licensing experience within our product, and how can we unify all of that data, and then create an experience where users can see everything all in one. They can manipulate the data as they want to, export it, and then share it with their teams. Licensing is one of the most painful things in this industry. And it's difficult to understand, it's difficult to execute, it's difficult to keep track of, and we wanted to address that. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit within the networking industry that can make customers' lives so much easier, and this is one of those experiences where I wanted to tackle that head on right away, because it's simple pain to address, and it's easy. As within Extreme, it's very easy for us to unify that data and make it easier for our customers to understand it so that they can actually be better at their jobs and predicting what their costs are going to be in the future for their next budgeting cycle. So that was one of my most passionate things to talk about, and one of my favorite things that we've done, because it is one of the simplest and easiest things that we can do to make our customers' lives better.
There's so much room for you to do that, to make customers' lives better with regard to licensing. The last thing I want to do is worry about it as a network operator, but I need to be aware of it, especially if it's causing issues, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, fingers crossed for continued improvement there for Extreme and for the industry. So,
Yeah, I feel like licensing for the industry is, your least favorite exercise at the gym. Like, you have to do it because you know it's good for you, but you don't really want to. So we just want to try to make it as fun and easy as possible for everybody to get through it.
well, the simplest scenarios, like I've bought this router and it has these physical ports and they should work because I bought the router. But wait a minute, I need a license to enable that second port. And don't worry, this is not an extreme example. I won't name the vendor. But making stuff like that frictionless is really important when I'm trying to push out network infrastructure because I have business goals I want to meet. So
Exactly.
we haven't touched on the whole idea of how this integrates Extreme Network Fabric. Can you tell us more about that as a fundamental concept around what Extreme does?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you brought this topic up because, Fabric is one of our most delightful features that we have, and one of the best products that we have within Extreme. But it has been locked within certain products, and we haven't really been able to create an experience for customers where they can properly visualize it. It's a very, very, very powerful feature and tool set and capability of the portfolio, but it only really sits within one of our products. So within Extreme Platform One, we thought about how can we improve it? How can we create a visualization of Fabric that will be meaningful and useful and insightful, but most importantly, easy to use? And we have an entire what we call visualization canvas within Extreme Platform One, which I'm very excited about, because one of the things that we've heard, you and I briefly touched on in this conversation, but I hear all the time from our customers is, how do I train somebody new on our network? And visualization and Fabric visualization of the network is one of the fastest ways for IT staffers to ramp up and understand the configuration of their network and to be able to visualize that. As we talked about, my background is not in engineering, so I've had to learn a lot about networking. I really couldn't set up an AP to save my life before when I started
Sure.
here, but now I can. But I had to go through those experiences. And when I was doing that, I was asking our team and our customers, said, okay, what are you thinking about now? Okay, what are you thinking about now? And they would take me through what they go through. And they're literally, as they're trying to configure things, trying to visualize it in their head, how it would all come together. And I went, that is very hard. And I was very impressed with customers that could do that. But then B, I went, there has got to be a better way for us to do this. That is very, very difficult for an individual to do. It's very difficult to train people to learn how to do that. And also, it's rife for human error, right? If one person might visualize something one way and somebody will visualize something the other way. And so, what we wanted to do was to create an experience where our users would be able to build something and then test it and see it in our visualization canvas, and be able to make sure that the area that they are trying to create is indeed exactly what they were visualizing. And so that way it makes it easier for team members to learn the network. It makes it easier to diagnose problems immediately because you can visually see where things are not connected between all the different layers, between layer 2, layer 3, and fabric services. You can then also figure out exactly where has the issue been. And we also have included AI in the entire process. So you can use AI Expert to troubleshoot as you go along. So you can ask AI Expert, what is this issue? Pull up our documentation. Let me try to troubleshoot it with AI Expert. And of course, we'll have an AI agent that will be able to do it for you should you want to. But our visualization canvas is a very powerful tool, and it's in response to what we heard from our customers, which is we want a better way to visualize our fabric. So you'll be able to, within your canvas, be able to click into multiple layers. You'll be able to see your RF maps. You'll be able to see your fabric visualization, all your different services, your physical layer, the physical topology, and you can turn it on and off and customize it based on what you're looking for.
So the one question I'm left with after we talk about all this, those challenges of being able to visualize it accurately is super helpful. What about extensibility to third parties? What are your capabilities and plans for being able to include other non-Extreme products in that one platform one view?
So if any client is cloud connected, then you will be able to see it. One of our most powerful use cases from one of our existing products, XIQ Site Engine or Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine, is the ability to see and manage third-party devices. And we will be bringing that to Extreme Platform One. In its first instance, it must be cloud connected, but we will be working towards how can we make that a more air-gapped solution or on-prem solution as well for Extreme Platform One in the very near future. So we will have that capability. Minimally, you'll be able to see the devices, but over time, you will be able to manage the devices just with the same use case that we have in Extreme Cloud IQ Site Engine.
Great. We'll look forward to seeing some of that as the platform grows. What have we not covered? There's so much that we haven't covered so far.
There's so much we can talk about.
Yeah, as we wind this episode down, what else should we be talking about from the ability for Platform One to impact NetOps to make it better, or anything, any of those big nuggets you want to call out from what we've said so far today?
I think what's going to be important for what's coming up for NetOps, right? So for all of the listeners out there, they're probably going, okay, well, it sounds like you're going to make my job a little bit easier, but I think there's a lot of nervousness around AI and what is it going to mean, and what does it mean for our jobs. And I think the one thing I want to come back to is that working with AI is going to enhance any team's capability. And I think that with every customer that I've spoken to, there's a lot of hesitancy, obviously, because networking and security, it's vital to the success of the business. It's vital to the success of, the world continuing to be able to turn, right? It's very important. Yep. It's a lot of high trust, but AI will enable us to be out in front of issues faster and will increase efficiencies across the team. So I think everybody has to take this journey in their own way and in their own time, but with every baby step, I would say with AI, we should lean in and get comfortable with what it can bring to the table, because it's not going to take your job, but it will definitely make your teams more efficient. And it's also going to elevate the role of NetOps. So I think a lot of people think that AI means that you don't have to know anything and that you can create anything through artificial intelligence, but that actually isn't true. The paradigm between someone who's working with AI and someone who's not, is that it's not good enough to know just how to code something. You have to be able to edit that code. So it really forces the person who's working with artificial intelligence to go from the level of writing something to editing something. And it takes you from being, a student to a professor. And there's a big leap there. It's really difficult to edit and to teach something. So it's going to push all of our customers and users to that next level over time of having to be true experts in their field and think through the strategy of it, right? Rather than just the doing of it.
I couldn't agree with you more on that front. This is, I'll mix my Marvel Cinematic Universe analogies here. With great power comes great responsibility, right? You're using AI-enabled tooling to do more, and it does make you more powerful, more impactful, both to the good and to the bad. I'll throw the Tony Stark and Iron Man suit out there too. Tony Stark needed to know what it means to fly. But then also, okay, now how do I use my AI agent Jarvis to actually pilot the suit while I'm in it? So sorry, I couldn't not bring those things up.
You can't not do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and also, how do I use Jarvis as a teammate, right? They can control the suit, but then also can help Tony be so much more impactful and go in the right direction. And so, yeah, that's exactly it.
That's perfect. Well, look, thank you so much, Carla, for this great conversation. I look forward to more in the future. Really appreciate your time. Where would you like to point listeners to find you and more about Platform One and Extreme Networks? Are there some good, concise places we can say here and put them in the show notes as well?
Absolutely. If you go to extremenetworks.com, we have a wonderful selection of blogs and interviews that are available. And there's also a feature set on Extreme Platform One. And we will be releasing and doing webinars all the way in the lead up to when we release Extreme Platform One for general availability, which will be in the middle of this calendar year, 2025. So please continue to go back. I am just the first of many to come. I'm talking about experience, but what we have coming up in our future months, we're going to be talking about our approach and strategy to AI, not just an experience, but how we've built it. What are the key use cases? You're going to hear a lot about us on AI, on the AI agent front. And we'll have more and more details that'll be dropping every single month at extremenetworks.com around Extreme Platform One.
Excellent. Carla Guzzetti with Extreme Networks, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, everyone else, for tuning in to Total Network Operations. TNOps is a growing project. We'd love your feedback. Topics you'd like us to cover, people you'd like us to speak with. If you know someone or you are someone with important things to say about NetOps, let us know. These episodes provide a channel to promote best practices and big ideas from Extreme Networks and many others. Please spread the word on TNOps, drop me a DM on LinkedIn, or send us a follow-up at packetpushers.net/follow-up. Thanks again, and see you next time on Total Network Operations.